Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats and feel free to continue to enjoy breakfast as we go through the program. Welcome to State of the County 2022. My name is Anthony Romanello. I'm with the Henrico Economic Development Authority. While we have a room full of dignitaries, let me introduce some of our key elected and appointed officials from the Virginia General Assembly, Delegate Schuyler Van Valkenburg and Delegate Rodney Willett. Welcome, gentlemen. From the Henrico Board of Supervisors, Mrs. Pat O'Bannon, Mr. Frank Thornton, Reverend Tyrone Nelson, and Mr. Dan Schmidt. From our school board, Mrs. Christy Kinsella, Mickey Ogburn, Alicia Atkins, Marcy Shea, and of course, Dr. Cashwell, our school superintendent. And from the Henrico Economic Development Authority, Ms. Susan Custer, Mr. Floyd Mays, Mr. Travis Pearson, Mr. Eddie Whitlock, and Mr. Dennis Berman. Welcome, folks. So several years ago, the EDA team started recognizing legacy businesses in Henrico, particularly businesses that have reached the 25-year milestone. What we'd like to do today for the first time is, in front of this audience, recognize companies that have hit the 50-year milestone here in Henrico. And in many cases, these companies have been with the county even longer than that. Just took, for whatever reason, a little bit of time to update the record. So we have several companies that we're going to recognize today. When I read off the name of the company, if the individuals representing the company would please come forward and line up in front of the stage, and then when everyone is introduced, we'll ask the Board of Supervisors and the county manager to come forward, and we'll have a group photo of all of our 50-plus legacy businesses. So it's my pleasure to introduce, not everyone is here, but I will read through the entire list. There are 13, starting with Aberto, which was established in 1972, a family-owned drywall installation contractor. Please come forward. You can get your new electric F-150 at Bill Talley Ford, family-owned car dealer that was recognized. Please. Folks at Bill Talley, recognized as 2022 new car dealer and 2022 used car first runner-up by the Richmond Times-Dispatch. B.W. Wilson, who I don't think is here today, they're a wholesale fine paper distributor. Brown Distributing Company. We don't have their beverages here at breakfast. I'm sorry. You'll have to get some tonight. Family-owned beverage distributor, originally established in 1919 as a distributor of cherry-flavored soda. Today they serve over 3,000 retailers throughout the Commonwealth. The good folks at Costin Floors. Welcome to the Costin family-owned flooring company. Committed to expert installation of quality hardwood flooring. You can find their work. If it isn't in your kitchen, you can find it at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, as well as at the Siegel Center and thousands of homes throughout the Richmond area. E.D. Lewis and Associates, a family-owned land planning, civil engineering survey company. Recent projects include residential, commercial office parks, industrial facilities design, as well as churches. You leave here today and your car doesn't start, you can call Denton's Alternator and Starter Service, local automotive repair shop. They are busy working today and couldn't make it this morning. Folks from Gumminick Properties are here, a award-winning real estate development and management company with operations throughout the East Coast. Gumminick recognizes the importance of affordable housing and established the Gumminick Greater Richmond Housing Fund in 2000, and were recognized this year as a top workplace by the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Richmond never looked as good as we did when Franco came. Franco's Fine Clother, come on up, Franco. Franco's Fine Clothers, as everyone knows, a family-owned business known to be the finest tailor in Richmond with some of the most beautiful clothing, exceptional craftsmanship, and every time I'm in there, Franco is there. I don't know how he does it, if he knows I'm coming, but Franco's always there. So Franco's Fine Clothier. If your dog or cat hasn't told you this, this is where he or she wants to go. Holiday Barn Pet Resort on Mountain Road, full service luxury boarding, daycare and grooming for cats and dogs. I've tried, they do not accept children, just cats and dogs. And then our last firm to be recognized today, Taylor, Taylor & Taylor, a full-service law firm that serves individuals and corporations here in the Commonwealth. So please come forward. And if I could ask the county manager and the members of the Board of Supervisors to come forward, and we'd like to take a picture with our legacy businesses as they are coming up. One great big round of applause for all of Henrico's legacy businesses. Please come up to the stage, folks. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thanks for coming. Congratulations. Thanks for coming. You ready?
Yeah, let's roll.
Thanks. So I woke up this morning with an abundance of blessings because I live in Henrico and I work for the good people of Henrico. Without further ado, it is my pleasure, my honor to introduce my friend and our county manager, John Vithoulkas.
Thank you, Anthony. You know, this was probably the best opening to a State of the County address, seeing all of these businesses that have succeeded for so many years. And we have over 20,000, 25,000 businesses if you include the ones that work from home. And so incredibly fortunate. Anthony, what you and the EDA have been doing, absolutely knocking it out of the park. So you are going to hear me say thank you to a number of folks this morning, but I want to begin by saying thank you to two individuals that actually put a lot of effort into what you're going to see. So summarizing a year's worth of activity is very difficult, incredibly difficult. And Holly Zinn in the manager's office and Will Jones in public relations were able to put this presentation together. So ladies and gentlemen, if you would recognize their efforts, there's a lot that we... There's a lot that we have to talk about, but also there were a few things we couldn't fit in. So sit tight, we're going to go through this. You cannot do the state of the county in this county in 15 minutes. We don't have one or two things to report. And you'll see a lot of activity in many places. So I want to begin, obviously, by thanking you for being here. Our county thrives on engagement, and you're a big part of it. Local government is an active exercise. It requires perpetual motion, constant listening, and always, always, always assessing and reassessing what we're doing. This ensures that we remain in sync with our residents and their vision for what our community is today and what it will be years from now. We have built a strong feedback loop that extends from our residents and businesses to our Board of Supervisors. It threads through our government and school system. We engage our community, our customers, and ask what they want. Then we plan and ultimately deliver. In doing so, we establish a trust that strengthens over time. And as you can see, we took this approach with the redevelopment of Virginia Center Commons, something we'll touch on later. In last week's election, our voters approved all 4 bond referendum questions because we put forward a plan that aligned with our community's needs. The margins were incredible. 86% for schools, 84% for parks, 89% for fire stations and public safety, 87% for flood prevention and drainage. Ladies and gentlemen, that's an average of 87%, and is actually the highest rate of approval going back to the county's first bond referendum in 1953. It's also much higher than what other cities and counties saw on their ballot initiatives statewide last week, as there were a number. So I want to thank you all that voted, and thank you for helping us bring forward projects that meet our community's needs. This is an example of what President Lincoln referred to in his Gettysburg Address of a government of the people, by the people, for the people. We will soon, this slide shows you, start work on more than 20 projects encompassing every realm of the county that will be funded over the next 6, 7, 8 years, depending on the economy. You may know what's planned because we've talked about it over more than 160 meetings over the past few months. Now, because this mission was so important, we knew we needed a special agent to lead it. We needed our very own bond guy. You know Brandon Hinton as our Deputy County Manager for Administration. Clearly, ladies and gentlemen, there's more to the man. Where is Brandon? Brandon, stand up. Not many times I can surprise that young man because we spent a lot of time together, but I think I got him this morning. So clearly there's more to the man. He was equipped with brochures and cutting-edge gadgets like a cell phone. He led our public awareness campaign, and that made nights away from his family and traveled to exotic places like Short Pump, Glen Allen, Tuckahoe, Fairfield, and Sandston. He met with neighborhood and civic groups. He took and responded to hundreds of emails and calls. He wrote newspaper columns and fielded media requests. He answered question after question and was always on point, never shaken or stirred. He did this all without hesitation. He was no Dr. No. So our 00, nearly 7-foot-tall Bond guy, doesn't drive an Aston Martin. In truth, he drives a white Toyota SUV. So sometimes the man is bigger than the legend. Nobody does it better. But I also want to take and recognize for schools, I need to pause and tip my hat to School Board Chair Marcy Shea, who was also everywhere for our school system, often joined by Vice Chair Christy Kinsella. Board of Supervisors had multiple town hall meetings. We had over 90 people involved in this effort. Quite frankly, I've been in local government a while, and I've never seen a response rate that has been this affirmative. Again, I want to thank everyone involved, and especially, where's Ben Shepard? Ben, back in the corner, your PR team for being everywhere and pushing out information in 15 different languages, something we had never done. So let's talk about what that means, because these projects will continue the work that we started with the 2016 referendum. You can see on this slide, between the two, we're making investments that approach $1 billion. And this is happening, ladies and gentlemen, as we're reducing taxes. It's a credit to our Board of Supervisors, who were recognized: Chair Pat O'Bannon, Vice Chair Frank Thornton, Dan Schmidt, Tommy Brannon, and Tyrone Nelson. But here I also must thank my counterpart, Dr. Amy Cashwell, the school board, and the team at Henrico County Public Schools. You don't see this very often, but our county is blessed to have a local government and a school system that work so well together. The referendum's success is a vote of confidence and shows the value of that feedback loop, the constant engagement and listening to what our residents need. Now we're using that loop to update our comprehensive plan, and we're calling this process Henrico Next, because it will deliver a blueprint for our future. Our last update was in 2009. So in recent surveys, we asked residents to highlight in just a few words what kind of county they want Henrico to be. And the results that are reflected in this word cloud are telling. So what you're going to see, there are 15 words that have been expressed most often. The larger the word appears, the more times it was listed in the responses. Now, I'll refer to this throughout the presentation. It was gratifying to see our residents' aspirations reflected this way, because they reinforce what we are doing, what we have been doing. Let's take a closer look. We say it all the time. There are core principles that make communities successful. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got to be strong in public safety, education, and financially. Without this foundation, you can't reach the realm of exceptional public service, of possibility governance, as one of our board members likes to say. As you can see, our residents understand this. The word safe appears larger than any word, with healthy and peaceful also prominent. Our board devotes significant resources to public safety. Our police, fire, and sheriff divisions do an incredible job. Now, here I need to pause, because talk about perspective. We have to pause to honor police officer Trace Sutton, who died in March following a traffic accident on Chamberlain Avenue. He and his field training officer, Greg Petrohovich, were transporting a suspect when their vehicle was struck by a motorist. Trey, ladies and gentlemen, had just graduated from the academy. He is our 10th officer lost in the line of duty. He had his whole life ahead of him. Our workforce is family. When we lose someone, we feel it profoundly. We must always remember that the brave men and women in public safety put their lives on the line daily. They're wired to serve in a way that most people are not. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask you all to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, Trey. Just on this slide, just days before Trey's death, our 75th academy began. Can you imagine how these new recruits felt? And 7 graduated about 2 weeks ago. We're so proud to have them in our family. They will serve for you, our residents, and businesses. We support our police officers and firefighters by providing the resources they need, equipment, training, and staffing. But if you followed the news recently, you know that high vacancy rates in these positions are a challenge nationally. Thanks to our board, as well as our chiefs, Eric English, Alec Auten, and Sheriff Elise Gregory, we're not only keeping positions filled, we're increasing our complement. In the last 4 years, we've added 88 positions in public safety, and you can see that on this slide. I want to take a moment right now. I saw Chief English. So I want to say thank you and HPD for what you all did on Monday. You put a whole state at ease, if you will, when you apprehended the suspect involved in the UVA homicides 2 days ago. I just want to say thank you for everything that you continue to do, and that was just on a hunch that you all did that. Continuing within the theme of safe, we'll soon celebrate the opening of Firehouse 20 near Staples Mill Road. And next spring, we'll start construction on Firehouse 23 near 9 Mile Road. Both were funded through the 16 referenda. This is how you create and sustain a safe community. You attract good people, particularly in frontline positions, and you give them what they need to succeed. But you also must look at public safety holistically and develop strategies to diffuse volatile situations. I don't need to tell the state legislators mental health challenges are growing ever more complex, and we are going to need your help. The best outcome is when we can prevent a personal struggle from becoming a crisis. So consider local efforts, purely local. CARE, STAR, the crisis intervention teams that we have in this county. They, in our Engage program for seniors, have brought expertise, including in mental health and substance use disorders. This year, we are averaging 10 911 mental health calls per day and spending nearly $15,000 every weekend on just police overtime. That's up significantly from just 2 years ago. Now, I am proud to announce that this year, Henrico County we have begun to design and will open the region's first public 24-hour detox center. A few years ago, it was Supervisors Nelson and Brannon that led an effort that identified the need for a facility, not a jail, where adults could receive detox and addiction support services. And after a study by our Recovery Roundtable and Laura Toddy's team in mental health, we'll begin construction next summer on this facility, which will have 30 beds. It'll be owned by the county. We've done a number of public-private partnerships, but it will be privately operated. And we recently pulled Mike Feinmel from the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office to serve as a Deputy County Manager for Public Safety. He, along with Ty Parr, who's also serving in the Manager's Office and doing dual duty in social services, will help guide this effort. Now, we've seen a rise in youth violence involving guns, and this is not a Henrico County issue. This is a national issue. Sadly, we're not immune. We've put together a task force, courts employees, schools employees, public safety, mental health. And we have already made a number of improvements to state processes in the courts. We're working with schools and mental health to identify students in crisis. We've made security enhancements over and over again. This year, our school system made over $5 million in upgrades to camera systems at our middle and high schools. But I am convinced, and this group is convinced, that students need to be part of that discussion and that conversation and that solution going forward. So to this end, I'd like to thank Monica Smith-Callahan, our Deputy County Manager for Community Affairs, for pulling together the first regional summit, if you will, youth summit that will include the big 4 localities in the region. Monica quarterbacked that. Dr. Cashwell has put together a school safety blue ribbon committee who has come forward with additional recommendations that we will be funding in the weeks and months ahead. But there is no more important issue right now that we are facing than this issue, and we aim to continue to address it. So let me talk about education, because that is a building block for a vibrant community, and the responses were overwhelmingly positive from our residents. Obviously, with partners like Dr. Cashwell and the school board, we can build a budget that devotes the lion's share of resources to education. The Board of Supervisors has been consistent in fully funding budgets. Going into my 11th year as a county manager, not one example where everything requested was not funded. We're able to earn the trust of our community through these relationships as we reinvest in our buildings. We're also trying new and innovative things. Now, I mentioned public-private partnerships. Here's a recent example. You can see these kids who are second graders. So we tried to do this. Bobby Ukraut brought this idea to Henrico a number of years ago, many years ago. It was Amy Cashwell that said, that's a great idea. So every second grader going through the school system is learning to swim through the public-private partnerships that we have with YMCA and Nova Aquatics at Regency. This year we had 1,400 students. Next year we'll exceed 3,500 students. Our school board is also renovating the old Highland Springs High School as the Oak Avenue complex. We're rebuilding the academy at Virginia Randolph and renovating Adams Elementary School, the last school project from the 16 referenda. These deliver immediate benefits for students and their families, but there's also a secondary effect. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out to change Zillow and what it reflects about some of our older neighborhoods. Think about what's happening right now with the Tucker and Highland Springs rebuilds. And Amy Cashwell's out-of-the-box thinking has launched the Center for Environmental Studies and Sustainability at Varina High School. With the referendum, the one that just passed, we're constructing a $16 million living building at Wilton Farm. It'll be the center's home, but also used by all science classes. At Hermitage, we've started the Center for Allied Health and Human Services to propel students into high-demand jobs in nursing, emergency services, pharmacy, and more. Our schools are establishing an adult education center at Regency Square. With more baby boomers reaching retirement, our workforce needs are extensive. But think of it this way. A great need is also a great opportunity. To this end, where's Mac Beaton? I see Mac Beaton. Mac, will you stand? So, ladies and gentlemen, this man has done a phenomenal job in technical education over a 36-year period. So you can see on this slide, Miss O'Bannon giving Mac a plaque there. That is the Distinguished Community Service Medal, one of only a handful ever given in this county. And, you know, with the improvements that are being made at Highland Springs and Hermitage, $52 million in investment between those two facilities. Anthony, we have 1,000 more seats going into CTE, something you can sell to the companies that are coming in, and the companies that are here know how dire the work situation is with new employees coming in. But let me step back and put it into perspective if I can. So I graduated from Tucker High School in 1985, and when I went to high school, there were several choices that we had. This is what this county, this school board, this superintendent has put together over a long period of time. Imagine yourself as an 8th grader getting ready to start your path for high school. There's the traditional route with maybe honors, AP, IB, or dual enrollment classes. You can enroll in one of 14 specialty centers, the Governor's School or Code RVA High School. You could also enter a career cluster like technical education classes or pursue work-based learning. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a product of that feedback loop. Our students, their families, and employers asked for these choices. We are listening, and our county is stronger as a result. Dr. Cashwell, thank you. Thank you to the school board for everything you have done over the years, and to the Board of Supervisors for consistently funding all of that. You know, now let's talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and one of them was financial stability, keeping tax rates low and spending lean. You may recall at last year's State of the County, we announced a tax relief plan to offset sharply rising real estate rates. Our 2+2 plan, as it was called, is now fully implemented. So first, we delivered a rebate, a check, equal to 2-cent cut on the real estate tax rate. With that, we became the first locality in Virginia ever, to return surplus real estate tax dollars to taxpayers. Our board did what no other board or city council had ever done. That's leadership in doing what's right. It also shows the efficiency of the feedback loop. Residents let us know loud and clear they were feeling pinched financially by rising assessments. For the second part, we cut the real estate tax rate by 2 cents, from 87 cents to 85 cents. That gives Henrico County the lowest real estate tax rate among Virginia's 10 largest localities. And yet we weren't done. We expanded the REAP program to enhance tax relief for our seniors and residents with disabilities. We also provided a tax credit on personal property, just as we had done on real estate. This effectively reduced, and this is not a typo, this effectively reduced the personal property tax rate by 52 cents. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is this Board of Supervisors delivered $51 million of tax relief for our residents last year. And thanks to our finance team led by Sheila Miner. Sheila, where are you? There you are, Sheila Miner, and our new county attorney, Andrew Newby. So let me tell you, new finance director, new county attorney, Sheila walks in, and when we welcomed her, we asked her to do something that had never been done before, and asked Andrew to get us there legally. And they both ultimately did it, and so I want to personally give you both a shout out and thank you for everything that you have done. So let's stay on that fiscal DNA. So our fiscal house is in order. We closed the books in fiscal 22 with the largest fund balance in our county's history, nearly $430 million. What that means is that 40+ cents of every general fund dollar is in our savings account. Our budget also reaffirms our commitment to education and public safety. It continues what has been a generational pay investment in our workforce. It also pushes us forward in economic development and the environment with more announcements coming. But affordability is more than just a municipal budget, and it doesn't mean substandard living. When I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, getting to things like this is critically important. Let me tell you the story of Glenwood Farms. It's an apartment community off Laburnum near Firehouse 7. It's a lower income community, if you will. It has about 300 units and 100 school-aged children on 26 acres. It was built in the late 1940s and acquired in 2018 by an out-of-town profiteer. Since then, our inspectors have cited more than 500 code violations, That's because they're working and looking. These reflect basic maintenance issues, rotting or missing floors, sewage overflows, rodent infestations, and more. Greg Revels and the Department of Building Inspections have done an incredible job. But where do we go from here? You know, we started, and Eric Lebo, I need to say thank you, and you're going to hear me say thank you to Eric a few times this morning. But where do we go from here? We had some experience with Essex Village in making improvements there through our efforts. What we're working on now is we are working with stakeholders and looking to put together a coalition, a consortium, if you will, and have Glenwood Farms transferred to a responsible local owner and have the property rebuilt a piece at a time and have it be clean, affordable housing. This is going to be very difficult as the system is really not set up for such strong local intervention. There's really no guidebook. But in our feedback loop, people come first. And that's an effort that you'll see coming out of the ground. And none of this would be possible without the advice and guidance of my friend Laura Lafayette and the Richmond Association of Realtors, who we rely on for many things. You know, there is a strong partnership in the housing community. These are all the partners that we work with. You'll see our school system also involved. As a county, you know, I mentioned Essex Village. So what we continue to do is we continue to pursue maintenance agreements. Whenever new owners of apartment communities request our support for federal public financing of some sort, which they do frequently. And so Eric Lebo and his team in community revitalization over a 3-year period have put together MOUs that encompass nearly 20% of the affordable subsidized apartment communities in Henrico, and this is clean, affordable. This is not what you saw with Glenwood Farms. So I want to say thank you to Eric Lebo and that whole team. It's absolutely incredible in a short period of time what a new face has done to our efforts that we really 5 or 10 years ago were really not involved in. Opportunity. That's what it's all about. Why individuals and families settle here and why companies invest here. You know, tourism represents an opportunity, and I see Jack Berry and Catherine O'Donnell, Richmond Region Tourism, and what you all do for us. Dan Schmidt, who's the chair of RRT, and I want to thank you for you transformed. I think you were the first to let all of the localities know there's an opportunity here, and look at what's happening. We've established the Henrico Sports and Entertainment Authority locally and attracted Dennis Bickmeyer. Where's Dennis? To lead our efforts. Sports tourism is already a $60 million enterprise with many athletic fields and complexes. Soon, we'll have an indoor facility at Virginia Center Commons and the Green City Arena, but I'm not going to steal Dennis's thunder. He's on video.
The Sports and Entertainment Authority was established to do a variety of things. I mean, bring more sports and entertainment to the county. The county has done an amazing job with our outdoor facilities that we have. We're blessed with amazing facilities here in Henrico County. So baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, I mean, we've just been crushing it in the outdoor game from a sports tourism standpoint. And now we have Virginia Center Commons, the Sports and Events Center at VCC, that will be coming online in a little less than a year. That's a game changer for us. So we'll continue to do a great job with our outdoor sports and bidding on events to come here. But now we get to go and bid on some events to come into the indoor facility at Virginia Center Commons. You know, there was a study done that we were leaving like $33 million on the table by not having an indoor facility like this. And here we'll have this great, facility for basketball, volleyball, pretty much anything that you can do from an indoor sports standpoint that we'll have in this facility. And we've made it multi-purpose. We can do concerts and special events and a lot of other things that we haven't been able to do in the county. And now we have the arena at Green City. And we want to talk about game changers. That is a complete game changer for our county and for this region to have a 17,000 seat arena for sports and entertainment. I think of the missed opportunities from like a music standpoint, not just sports. You think of like high quality A-level touring acts, and they're driving right by us on I-95. To have a facility like that, we'll be able to get those acts to stop here. We got some amazing numbers from Virginia Tourism on the tourism direct spending impact here in Henrico County. It was $1.35 billion with a B. The number just blew us away. The impact that that's having here on our community from a meal standpoint, from a transportation standpoint, from a recreation standpoint, it's an incredible number. I feel like we're bringing some showtime here to Henrico County. So our tagline is showtime all the time.
All the time, Dennis. So, I see Michael Hallmark. So this Thursday, our Economic Development Authority is going to consider the creation of a Community Development Authority, one of the final steps that we need to take to allow Green City to be successful. That will then come to the Board of Supervisors, and then you will pretty much be done with any public aspect or necessary for Green City to take off. But we also this morning have two other announcements within this realm. Our Board of Supervisors has approved a transfer of 21 acres at Glover Park to the Sports Authority. That will allow a private company to build and maintain a 4-field baseball complex. Again, I've mentioned public-private partnerships. It started with a golf course, moved to Regency Square, the Thornton Aquatic Center, all of those. This is another public-private partnership opportunity. Second, this morning we also have an agreement with St. Gertrude's High School. Thank you, Anthony, for leading those efforts to purchase 16 acres of property adjacent to Green City, and that will be transferred to our Sports Authority. More fields mean more visitors, mean more spending in our county. If your decisions are sound, opportunity and prosperity go together. In economic development, we had another fantastic year. Thanks to, I'm just going to stop calling you Anthony and just call you AJ from now on. So everyone, AJ Romanello and his EDA Dream Team, corporate relocations and other project announcements that have exceeded $250 million and included the likes of American Paper Converting, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Hamilton Insurance, EAB, and our friends at QTS. In Virginia, our county stands second in jobs, just behind Fairfax, with just under 200,000. Think about that. Those are positions for today and tomorrow, and we talked about what Mac Beaton is putting in the pipeline. So we want our young people to choose to stay here after they finish high school and college. Measure of GDP, our county is now fourth at $24.5 billion. The only localities that are ahead of us are in Northern Virginia with the federal government siphon that they have. Our prosperity is driven by many things. At White Oak Technology Park, home to QTS, Meta, and others, we're connected digitally to the world through the high-speed Richmond Network access point. You had a conference where you brought in Vint Cerf, the original creator of the internet. I came thinking I was going to see Al Gore, but he didn't show, so Vint was there. A few years ago, we sparked a wave of investment at White Oak by cutting our tax rate for equipment used in data centers. We've also reduced taxes on machinery and tools. Look at this. Aircraft, BPOL over a 4-year period. Our latest effort is aimed at attracting research and development companies by creating a technology zone for Innsbruck and slashing by 74% the property tax rate for qualifying businesses. You know what's happened to revenue? Up, up, up. So we remain bullish on the future. Innsbruck and Short Pump to the west continue this stacker, Best Places to Live in America, has recognized both of those communities as one of the top 50 places to live in the U.S. in 2022. Growth is essential for prosperity, opportunity, and raising our quality of life. As a county, our job is to facilitate and guide development and provide the roads, utilities, schools, and other infrastructures that we need. Now here I must give a shout out to Joe Emerson and his team in planning. They do a great job of anticipating where growth wants to go and putting the right tools in place. We have several areas supercharged with development thanks to the steps that have been taken. Innsbruck has seen a dramatic shift, and this is before the tax impacts go into effect, towards large-scale urban development since we designated a special focus area and created an overlay district. We've seen redevelopment projects totaling about 3,500 residential units and 250,000 square feet of new commercial and office space. The areas in blue that you see, those are under construction or complete. The Henrico Sports and Event Center kicked off the dramatic changes at Virginia Center Commons. In a few years, this now closed shopping mall, think about where Virginia Center Commons was. Think about where Regency would be if we didn't have Mark Slusher, Rob Hargett, private investment. And so more than 900 residential units have been approved. These units, plus the new River Mill community, will drive new investment in the surrounding commercial areas. There's a form-based overlay here as well that will ensure accessibility for pedestrians and bicyclists. We also have a connection to the Fall Line Trail that will run right through here, and also a new Woodman Road extension that connects that whole area. Moving on, what do you get when you take an area poised for growth and give it the infrastructure it needs to grow? Dan Schmidt knows this, you get Westwood. This area has exploded since 2018 when the board adopted the Westwood Overlay District. We're making significant investments in utility infrastructure. We have seen approvals for more than 1,000 residential units and almost 200,000 square feet of commercial and office space. But there's more. We're awaiting a filing for another major mixed-use development that will more than double these numbers. And Jim Wilbert is here this morning. You know, what you and Wayne Chasen started at Libby Mill, and if you drive by Libby Mill, you have seen buildings coming out of the ground, and now you are seeing the extension of that development all the way to Libby Avenue. So are you noticing a trend? Some of our mainstay communities are being reinvented with mixed uses and density. At Regency, more than 1,100 residential units are now planned, with restaurants, jobs, event spaces, and more. The Nova Indoor Swimming Complex we mentioned, built in a former Macy's store, recently won a Golden Hammer Award for Best Adaptive Reuse. You know, I want to recognize here Pat O'Bannon as a tireless advocate for not just this project, but for her entire career advocating for Perriman-Patterson and getting it through that VDOT juggernaut. That was an incredible improvement. So thank you, Ms. O'Bannon. To the east, Williamsburg Road represents the next big thing. It's a gateway for our county and region. Thanks to Perry Miller and our friends at the airport, we're working to maximize the area's potential by creating a form-based overlay, much like the one transforming Virginia Center Commons. One goal, incentivize investments and integrate new uses. We've engaged the airport, hotel owners, and other businesses. Mr. Nelson, I promise you we are going to get this done. And Perry Miller, thank you. You are a gift to our region. You know, the board spends a lot of time focusing on these projects and the needs of maturing areas. Here, coming out of a recent retreat, the new Henrico Investment Program works with our enterprise zones to spur commercial and industrial development. It offers rehabilitation grants, fee waivers, sewer connections, credits, and other assistance in areas designated by the county, each magisterial district. Through Henrico Next, we're creating a blueprint of how we want the county to grow. Our comp plan update will be a major focus over the next 18 to 24 months. And I hope each of you will take part to ensure that our feedback loop continues. Transportation, one of two counties that maintain our own roads. Public Works, led by Terrell Hughes, has, ladies and gentlemen, 120 active projects totaling $530 million. The Central Virginia Transportation Authority is helping us to establish a new baseline for investments in transportation. And that's a credit to Frank Thornton, who gave the authority a great start as its first chairman of the first 2 years. You know, first meeting of the authority they had to establish officers. Mr. Thornton's name came up, and I believe it was an 8-second vote. And then they had to decide who the vice chair was. And we were there for another 2.5 hours. So ultimately, we're focusing on accessibility and safety like never before. Also recently, continuing to make progress on the I-64 interchange off North Gayton Road, and have received positive feedback from both federal and state officials. But I'd like Terrell Hughes to tell you a little bit about what's going on.
Henrico, the Department of Public Works, we're really excited for just what we have going on now and what we have going on in the future. As an engineer, I think one of the draws to becoming an engineer was the ability to be creative. I think the creativity is going to help us expedite the process of improving accessibility. Over the last, I'd say, decade, the Department of Public Works in Henrico County has been very engaged with adding sidewalk, looking to improve our sidewalk infrastructure. A lot of our major roads especially were built, or 2-lane, 4-lane road. Didn't always have sidewalk included with it. So county's been very active in trying to fill in these gaps. We currently have over 120 capital projects that we're working on. That totals over $500 million. I think the creativity is going to help us expedite the process of improving accessibility. For example, the Church Road, that roadway reconfiguration project, we had a road, 4-lane, undivided roadway. In that particular instance, we repaved the road, put new striping down. I mean, that's something that we have to do. Since we maintain our own roads, we have to maintain the asphalt. So as there's opportunities, if we're redoing the pavement, there's an opportunity to reimagine what the striping looks like. With what we do with Public Works is there's multiple ways to solve some of these challenges.
A quick note about the Fall Line Trail. It's going to be a tremendous asset for recreation and transportation. It'll extend 43 miles and touch 7 localities. We're making great progress on our segments and believe that our piece will be the first to come out of the ground, so to speak. Finally, our county now has 3 seats on the GRTC board. Supervisors Nelson and Schmidt, Todd Ure, our Assistant Director of Public Works, are on that board, and Mr. Nelson is now GRTC's new chairman. We welcome the opportunity to help lead the transit system, and will work with our partners to provide, let me underscore this, strong fiscal oversight as we enhance service, everything from scheduling of routes to something I have heard you two gentlemen say repeatedly, the installation of bus shelters and other amenities. Details like these matter in communities as large and diverse as Henrico, and so do things like cleanliness and sustainability and protecting the environment. In public utilities, we're working to bring public water and sewer to homes with aging, sometimes failing wells and septic systems. Think about what I said about Maslow and eventually being able to get to these things. This is a massive undertaking. Think about the water problems in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi. This is good for residents and the environment. Our first phase will extend public utilities to nearly 800 homes by late 2026. And here, in this upcoming budget, you will also see a proposal that will allocate the value of a penny of our real estate tax rate to the extension of utilities, sewer, and water. So in addition to these initial efforts that we will undertake to extend sewer and water, that will be potentially an ongoing effort by our county. In Cumberland, the Cobbs Creek Reservoir will be ready to begin drawing water from the James River by next summer. You can see that we just set the bridge to what is called the Dam Control Building. And that crane right there, the red crane, is, I am told, the largest one in the state at the moment. The nearly 15 billion gallon reservoir will help us meet our drinking water needs for decades. It will also help protect the James by releasing water when the river levels are low. Now, being a leader on the environment is tough because the issues are complex, expensive, and often under the purview of state or federal agencies. But where do residents often go, Mr. Nelson? And I say Mr. Nelson because he had an issue recently that we're going to cover where the federal government had said one notice to a resident, and ultimately we became aware of a situation and held a town hall, and ultimately Bentley Channing Utilities took a head-on approach And that happened last fall when the state found a chemical called PFAS in the Chickahominy River Basin. I'm going to let Bentley Chan talk about that.
Here at Henrico, we recognize that when there is an issue, we have to address it quickly because that's what we expect of ourselves. It's what we expect of anybody who lives in this community and works in this community because we're all in this together. In October of last year, 2021, we received a word very, very late from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, that there may have been chemical contamination in the White Oak Swamp Creek Basin. It being a groundwater source, we were concerned about wells in that area, private drinking water wells, because those are fed off of groundwater. And the county moved very, very quickly, almost the next day, to set up sampling and testing for all those residents because we recognized that as a resident, you really had no knowledge or expertise in that area, and we do, and we recognized that there was a need for us to utilize that expertise to help the community. Over the course of 3 or 4 months, we were able to sample and test about 280 wells and get those results back to residents to really help them and help us to determine next step to address a possible issue in the area. And now we're looking at installing filters for residents who were affected by that contamination. It's something that affects someone in the community, affects all of us. And we are here to serve, and we are here to help protect our residents.
Understand, there is no real statutory authority for what Bentley did. These are private wells. Most local governments would look at that situation and say, well, I'm sorry, that's a private well. You need to deal with it. And ultimately, it was DOD sent out one notice. EPA notified, we don't know who. But a menagerie of acronyms, none of which understands a feedback loop. Bentley Chan and his group got together, and thanks to Mr. Nelson, who held that town hall, we tested every well that we needed to in that area and went beyond. Not one request for a well test was denied, all on the local dollar. So, thanks to our supervisors continuing within this realm, environmental realm, we now have solar panels on all new county and school buildings, with more on the way. When this effort was in its infancy, Supervisor Brandon from Three Chop challenged us to put panels on top of the closed Springfield Road landfill. Ladies and gentlemen, within the next several months, I'm pleased to announce that we have worked through some technical issues and will now be poised to make them a reality, an award coming soon. We now have 22 government and school buildings that have been constructed to LEED standards, with more on the pipeline. Everything you see on that referendum list will be LEED. We continue to support the Central Virginia Waste Management Authority, which oversees household recycling. We're not going to leave our residents out. Well, I won't finish that, but we will be discussing a major enhancement to that effort at next month's board retreat. Recycling is critically important to all environmental efforts in reducing landfill streams of trash. We're restoring creeks, streams to reduce flows of phosphorus and other nutrients in creek streams and ultimately the bay. You will see in next year's proposal a proposal that over a 3-year period will get into every residential BMP and have that BMP cleaned, repaired, and ultimately that is a significant environmental effort. We recently earned the Green Leader Award for governments from the U.S. Green Building Council. Carrie Webster, Jamie Massey, our General Services Director, Go Green Team, thank you for everything that you continue to do. So that is simply the tip of the iceberg, because going forward as stewards of the earth, we must do more. Internally, we've created an environmental committee that's led by Carrie Trattina and Steve Yob. Our comprehensive plan will for the first time include a chapter on environmental sustainability. We have started work with a group called Capital Trees to see where we can expand tree cover in our parks and school grounds something that we will solidify at next month's board retreat. Then there's Green City. Not only will Henrico be home to one of the largest living buildings at Best Plaza, we'll also be able to show that green begets green. In other words, development that's innovative and environmentally responsible can also create a vibrant community in which to live, work, play. You know, we're doing all of these things, and I know this is a lot this morning, but we are doing all of these things to create and sustain a high quality of life in our community. I want to take just a moment to recap at some of the final projects from the 2016 referendum. At Dory Park, we built a premier baseball stadium, improved the farmers market, and added a splash pad. We're expanding. This is outside of the bonds that were just approved. Tuckahoe Creek Park and improving Tuckahoe, Deep Run, Cheswick, and Three Lake Parks. In Sandston, we're building Taylor Farm Park to be a one-of-a-kind park. It'll feature a skate park, water play areas, a bicycle pump track, and a memorial honoring military veterans and first responders. Dollar-wise, this represents the largest park project we've ever released to bid. So has anyone here not joined the pickleball craze? So pickleball, we're adding 12 more courts to Pouncey Track, including 2 that will be championship size. So Dennis tells me he's going to bring the World Pickleball Championships to Henrico once this is done. We recently built also 4 outdoor basketball courts at Fairfield Middle School, continuing tourism efforts, but it's not just about sports tourism, it's also about community. Speaking of community, the Fairfield Area Library and its toddler-friendly workstations, if you've not seen these, they're a thing on the internet. Because they've been so popular, we've incorporated these workstations into the recent improvements to the Sandston Library. Barbara Weedman and her crew continue to do great, great work. You know, and great things come when you have great partners. We recently helped Lewis Skinner Botanical acquire land for a future expansion. We've enlisted the Henrico Humane Society, another public-private partnership, the Henrico Humane Society, to help operate the Animal Adoption Center that will be built through the bond referendum. We're turning the former Mass Science Center into a permanent home for the Henrico Police Athletic League. And speaking of partnerships, I saw Kelly McCall earlier from Meta, what you all have done for our school system and our libraries with donations for hotspots. It's simply incredible. And then there's Woodland Cemetery. Marvin Harris, who could not be here this morning, he was feeling a little under the weather, and his foundation have made tremendous progress over the past 2 years to restore dignity to these sacred grounds. Sheriff Elise Gregory and her staff, as well as many other Henrico County employees, have supported this effort. You know, we recently also concluded the My Henrico Academy in partnership with the Asian and Latino Solidarity Alliance. This program strengthens our relationships with our multicultural communities, much like we've done with Oscar Contreras and Radio Poder. We also worked with a pair of talented sisters in their nonprofit to place art nooks at several parks. If you may have seen them at Deep Run and some other parks. And in each of these instances, we're doing more for our residents by tapping the energy and expertise in our community. Feedback loop. Our work, it continues. Next month, the Board of Supervisors will hold its annual retreat. And there they will brainstorm and outline an agenda for the next year. And I can assure you this is not a holiday party in disguise. At last year's retreat, we started talking about a bond referendum and supercharging our ACE centers. We talked about a tax rate cut to attract R&D companies and a technology zone for Innsbruck. These are just a few of the topics. All have been or are being implemented. This year, you'll hear us talk about workforce housing and our environmental efforts. We'll discuss Williamsburg Road redevelopment, school accreditation, and youth violence prevention, and all things fiscal. Our work, ladies and gentlemen, does not end. In closing, these aren't just words on a slide. They're the aspirations of our residents and our mandate. We've got a long way to go, but we've prepared and equipped for the journey. I invite you to join us. I want to thank you for being here, your engagement and support in everything you do for our county. Thank you and God bless.